I assume everybody's okay with that.
Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you all. We're here for the meeting of the executive committee. Members of the committee are hereby advised of their duty under the State Government Ethics Act to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflict, and are instructed to refrain from participating in any matter coming before this committee with respect to which there is a conflict of interest or appearance of conflict. Is anybody aware of the conflict or the appearance that you would like to put on record now? If not, we'll proceed, and if it becomes aware that there is a conflict, then please just let us know, and we'll allow you to go on record and make us aware of it. I guess the first matter we have will be the minutes from last council meeting in April. Those have been posted on EDDS, and folks have had a chance to review. Does anybody see anything that needs to be changed or corrected? If not, is there a motion that we accept those minutes, adopt those?
I make a motion to approve.
Second
Motion.
motion.
Second.
Made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please vote yes or no on your screen.
And for anybody who's having trouble finding this, this is in your participants tab. If you click that at the bottom of the screen, there'll be yes, no, raise hand options there. That passes 17-0.
Good. That's kind of like a Bladen County election where we count the votes before we have the election. Next is the financial statements. They've posted the second quarter's financial statements on EDDS with materials from the Finance and Audit Committee. Is that, Barbara, is that something you wanted to address? Or?
Well, I guess I wondered if anybody had any questions about those. If not, it is the motion of Finance and Audit that we recommend those to the council for approval.
Okay. Motion from the committee requires no second. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor or opposed, please vote yes or no on the screen.
All right, voting closed, 16-0.
Good. Barbara, you want to talk about the selection of auditors? Or?
I do. Bernard Robinson did the audit for us last year. They did a good job. We'd like to use them again this year. They have presented an engagement letter, which Finance and Audit has reviewed. And so it is the motion of Finance and Audit Committee that pursuant to that engagement letter, we engaged Bernard Robinson to do our audit this year. And we want to present that to the council for approval.
Okay. On that motion from Finance and Audit requires a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor and opposed, please vote yes or no. And on that on your screen.
18-0.
I think next item comes from Finance and Audit also, and it is a policy that any changes to the personnel policies of the state bar be approved by the council. And there are some changes that need to be made to comply with the Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, basically extending emergency leave in some cases. And so Finance and Audit moves that these policy revisions be sent to the council for approval.
Okay. That motion needs no second. Is there any discussion about that matter? If not, those in favor and opposed, please vote yes or no on your screen.
Nothing.
Great. Barbara, about the appointments advisory committee.
Thank you. There are 3 appointments to be made on the Board of Legal Specialization. Laura Hudson, Nancy Ray, and Jan Pritchett are all eligible for reappointment. And it's the motion of the Appointments Advisory Committee that they all be reappointed and that this be sent to council for approval.
All right. Is there, not needing a second, is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor of that recommendation of the Appointments Advisory Committee, vote yes or no on your screen.
Nothing.
Okay, further on legal specialization, we need to appoint the chair and vice chair of that committee. And it is our recommendation that Larry Rockamora be appointed as chair and Kim Coward as vice chair. And it's our motion that this be sent to the council for approval.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that motion from Finance and Audit? If not, those in favor and opposed, please vote yes or no on the screen.
$18.
All right.
Okay, IOLTA Board of Trustees, there are 3 appointments to be made, and it's our recommendation that Anita Brown Graham be reappointed and that Judge John Arrowood and John King be appointed. And it's our motion that this be sent to the council for approval.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, those for or opposed to that, please vote yes or no on the screen.
$19.
Okay.
Right.
Um,
Okay, we also are to appoint the chair and vice chair of that committee, and we recommend the appointment of Maria Missy as chair and Judge Jane Harper as vice chair, and it's our motion that this be sent to the council for approval.
all right. Any further discussion of that? If not, those in favor and opposed, signify by voting yes or no on the screen.
Passes 18-0.
Good. All right. There was one additional appointment. There's a presidential appointment, I think, to the Dispute Resolution Commission. After consideration and the discussion with the Advisory Appointments Committee, I will appoint Charlotte Wood to that position. I don't know if that requires any action, but I just wanted to make the Executive Committee aware of it. We've got amendments for publication. I think the first one deals with the rules of student practice that have been through a great review by our committee that included representatives from the law schools and I think these are up for publication. Is there any discussion about the rules for publication or the rules for pro bono activities on the next page? If not, is there a motion that we recommend to the council that they publish these?
Mayor, I move.
Move and second. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor, opposed, indicate by voting yes or no on the screen.
Nothing.
The next matter for publication was the proposed amendments for the advertising rules. Those have been, I think, studied and been back and are now, I think, a recommendation has come from the committee that we go forward and ask the council to publish these. Is there a motion that would submit these to the council and request that they publish these for comment?
So moved.
And the second. I see. Any further discussion? If not, those in favor and opposed vote yes or no on your screen.
The
next matter C deals with the amendment of the rules about fees that were to publish the rules at the change in our structure for the requirement of fees that we charge for various matters. Is there any question about that, or is there a motion that this be is this did this go to ethics committee this morning?
Yes, Colin, it did.
Yes, it
David
did.
Allen has his hand up.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I couldn't see the hand up. That'd be great if he would tell us about this.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, this is a proposed rule change. It came to ethics as at the request of the grievance committee to deal with whether attorneys may charge for responding to professional discipline. Proposed, it was not clear in the rules. I think it's a surprise to us that was an open question, but it was not. Apparently, the Office of Counsel has had several matters where this has come up and wanted, and an FEO would not be sufficient to allow the Office of Counsel to proceed for discipline with that. So the Joint Committee, Fred Morlock, chaired the committee, reported back to ethics today, and we've asked that this be sent for publication. That makes it clear that it is misconduct to bill or to attempt to bill for responding to professional inquiry. There's several other, also fee disputes and that kind of thing, but basically, if there's a matter of professional discipline, it's misconduct for the lawyers to attempt to bill the client for that dispute.
Okay. Coming from the ethics committee does not need a second. Is there further discussion on this? If not, those in favor of recommending the council that this be published for comment, please vote yes, and those opposed no on your screen.
Nothing.
The next one about the preamble, David, that's yours, isn't it?
Yes, sir. This is a proposal from the ethics committee for change to the preamble to set out certain categories for which it is and Brian, I'm sorry, I don't have Mr. President, I don't have the actual language in front of me. I don't have the ethics report right in front of me. And I'm sorry for that, but Brian, thank you, Brian. This is the language that was approved today by the ethics committee and sent and recommended that this be published, sent to the council for publication. While acting in a professional capacity, a lawyer should not discriminate on the basis of a person's race, gender, national origin, religion, age, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, or socioeconomic status. This responsibility of non-discrimination does not limit a lawyer's right to advocate on any issue, nor does this responsibility limit the prerogative of a lawyer to accept, decline, or withdraw from representation in accordance with these rules. It's very similar to the previous action taken by council, but there are some word changes, and also a couple of extra categories were added, including marital status and socioeconomic status.
Coming as a motion from the committee, it doesn't need a second. Is there further discussion? If not, those in favor, please vote yes, and those opposed, no on your screens.
Uh, 16-0. 17.
All right. The next matter is, I think, was the proposed amendments that were published after the January quarterly meeting about amendment of rules of prepaid legal services plan. I think this comes to us as a recommendation that the council send these to the Supreme Court for their acceptance and publication. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please vote yes, and those opposed, no on the screen.
And 19-0.
We keep picking up votes. That's good. Folks are waking up occasionally. The next matter was the proposed amendments that were published after the April meeting about the reinstatement from the inactive status, the standard amendment to the standards of certification of specialists of immigration law, the proposed amendments rules governing the admission to practice, proposed rules on the annual membership fees, and proposed amendments on the discipline and disability rules. I think all those come, I believe, with the next logical step would be to recommend to the council that these be sent to the Supreme Court also. Is that right, Alice? Okay. Thank
Yes.
you. Is there a motion that we send these to the Supreme Court for their review and acceptance and publication?
So moved.
Second.
Second the motion.
All right. Moved and second. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor, please vote yes, and those opposed, no on your screen.
$18.
The next matter was the issue about the extension of the Transitioning Lawyers Commission, which I think we had earlier requested an extension until the end of July, if my memory is right. And is this now up for further extension, Alice?
Yes, we extended it in April through tomorrow's meeting.
Right. Right.
Because they brought it to us kind of at the last minute, and the LAP board had not had an opportunity to weigh in. And the LAP board's recommendation is in the notes there. They recommend that they be reapproved as a lawyer's assistance program, but they're recommending a 2-year period of time. And they're also recommending that it go through July 31st, so it doesn't have that weird mid-month ending, which caused us some problems in April.
Okay, so the movement to extend it through from Saturday to July 31st of 2002. Is there a motion that we extend the renewal of the TLC program? For that
So
2 year.
moved.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any further discussion about that? If not, those in favor, please vote yes, and those opposed, no on your screen. Okay,
We're good. 18.
good. All right. Catherine, for your next up is litigation.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's no pending or threatened litigation of which I'm aware that is particularly noteworthy or that requires any elaboration, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes. Darren, do we have issues? Not you, just the group, isn't it?
Issue I can't get on the screen. The issues
can look
committee
your-
met
Rob.
this week. We took up our 3 subcommittee reports. I don't know if anyone is on here who I know that Mark Enriquez. Mark, do you want to speak to your subcommittee?
I'm happy to. I think I see a lot of you, I think were there or either in the subcommittee or heard our report. So I will be brief, but we are doing the overview in terms of regulation. I think the most interesting thing is we're meeting again next week. We decided we wanted to hear from Bill Henderson. He is a leader in this area in terms of trying to do reform and the potential impact on access to justice. So we decided we really need some more broad education. Brian did a fantastic overview of what's happening in different states. And I know his slides were part of the issue committee minutes if you want to go look at them. And then we have kind of a slide summarizing the primary changes that are underway. So I think we're off to a good start. We're going to do education next week, and then we're thinking we may have the folks come in from legal aid and try to talk to us about the demand that they are seeing and where that need is greatest. And after we kind of figure out some broad ideas and where the need is, then we're thinking of looking kind of at the different reforms, what states have done. And again, our mission is just to think about it and decide what might be worth further inquiry here. So we're not going to be bringing a specific proposed change. It's more an overview of what is happening in a number of other states and how we might want to consider any of those for North Carolina.
All right, thank you, Mark. I would commend to you, if you haven't had an opportunity to look at the issues committee, the slideshow that Brian did. It was exceptional and gave a really good synopsis of what's happening in the United States about these new regulatory possibilities. Gray is chairing the issues committee, subcommittee on proportional discovery. Do you want to say anything, Gray?
We've only had a charter meeting where we talked about whether or not there was a regulatory function here, and with the great advice of Carmen Bannon, our staff liaison, we decided there was. We're looking at the RPCs and the FEOs now on that. And we also talked about some changes in the cognate federal rules with the 2015 amendments to the rules of discovery, specifically Rule 26. So right now we're just getting our feet wet and trying to decide how to move in that regard. If we do go forward, it's probably going to involve a collaboration of some sort, hopefully with the North Carolina Bar Association, in terms of lobbying for any legislative changes. We'll keep you posted.
And trust me, even Gray can't make the rules of civil procedure interesting. So
no, but Todd Brown did. We talked to him later, and he should have been on the committee because he's smarter than the rest of it. He said, "Wait, I don't know what the problem is. If there's an issue with discovery, just file a motion for protective order." So that's spot on.
all right. All right. Judge Cobb, I don't think I saw him on the call. He is the chair of the subcommittee with regards to looking at compensation of indigent defense service attorneys or attorneys who represent indigent clients. Essentially, they've had 2 meetings so far. The last meeting involved having Whitney Fairbanks, who is the interim executive director of IDS, the Indigent Defense Service Commission. And she gave an overview of what types of vehicles there are to provide services to indigent clients across North Carolina. There are 3, believe it or not. One is obviously everybody knows about the public defender system, but there's also a contract system that our legislature required us to put into place about 3 or 4 years ago that has lost a little bit of a head of steam, but is still out there. And then the final one is what everybody is used to, and that is where the judges appoint private attorneys who represent indigent defense folks. We're still trying to get our legs under us with regards to how this meets our regulatory function for the state bar. And if it does, what should we do about it? So that was the report of the Issues Committee. President Willoughby.
Thanks, sir. Anybody have any questions or comments for Darren? If not, John, the legislation, you've got the legislature to go home. I think that's better than our previous legislative efforts.
Thank you, Colin. We met by Zoom conference on July the 1st. Peter steered us through the committee meeting. Senate Bill 414 is to allow an increase in annual fees of the state bar. There's actually no movement on that bill. It's stuck where it was, and it will have to. We'll have to wait until after the November election. Senate Bill 217 to correct the disparity in prosecutorial district numbers. We had a brief ray of sunshine when the bill passed. The problem was that the original bill, which would have done just that, was gutted, and new legislation was substituted under that heading. So the Senate Bill 217 that passed has done nothing to correct the prosecutorial district numbers problem. So that is still waiting. House Bill H 1067 to modernize debt settlement procedures and prohibition, I should say. It passed the House. It's stuck in the Senate. It too will have to wait. There's 3 items of COVID-19 related litigation. One that I'm sure you have heard of and possibly have used is the emergency video notarization. Originally, that was enacted. Originally, it was to expire, I believe, August the 1st, and I think it has been extended until March of 2021. There is a COVID-19 related legislation relating to authorization of attorneys to disperse funds prior to recordation of documents in certain situations, possibly because a Register of Deeds office is closed as a result of the pandemic or otherwise. And another provision allows new attorneys' oath to be handled remotely, swearing in via WebEx or Zoom or some medium such as that. There are nothing else to report and no action items to report to the executive committee.
Thanks, John. Does anybody have any questions or comments for John? Okay. Authorized practice, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Authorized Practice Committee met on July 15. The minutes are in the packet posted to EDDS. We reviewed 24 complaints and inquiries for action. The committee issued letters of caution in 15 matters. The committee dismissed 4 matters. The committee closed the files with no action in 2 matters. The committee continued 3 matters. The staff registered amendments to 51 existing prepaid legal services plans. The staff reviewed 5 prepaid plans for initial registration. 3 plans were registered. 1 plan is pending and 1 plan was rejected. And then we have 2 action items. The first, 2 action items for the executive committee to consider. The first is the AP committee voted to ask the executive committee to recommend to the full council that proposed changes to the rules governing the registration of prepaid legal services plans be adopted. And my recollection is that the executive committee previously considered this. It went to the council, and then there were some non-substantive changes made to these rules. So I think that the thinking is we need the executive committee to vote on that. That will then be considered by the full council tomorrow.
Okay. And is that would be a motion from the Authorized Practice Committee? Not
Yes, sir.
required. Is there any further discussion on that? The recommendation that this go to council? If not, those in favor, please vote yes on your screen. Those opposed, no.
Nothing.
Okay. Next we have the combined.
Hey, Colin, I got one more action item.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. That's all right. My mistake. So the second action item for the executive the executive committee to consider is the AP committee voted to request that the council enter an order revoking the registration of General Parts Inc. The plan owner indicated in November of 2019 that this prepaid legal services plan is no longer used in North Carolina. And so if the council votes to enter an order revoking this registration of General Parts Inc., there will be an order for Alice to sign indicating as such. I think that needs to be approved by the executive committee to go to the full council tomorrow.
Okay. The recommendation from Authorized Practice that we recommend to the council the revocation of General Parts Inc. plan. Is there further discussion? If not, those in favor of that vote yes, and those opposed no on your screen.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes the report of the Authorized Practice Committee.
Thank you. Next, we have the report of the PMBR and Cybersecurity Committees with Eben Rawls in the role of Butch Cassidy and Walter Brock as the Sundance Kid. Butch, are you there?
Hey, I'll start. Is Walter on the call?
I do not see Walter right now.
All right. Well, earlier this month, the committee in search of a name and the Cybersecurity Committee met, and we had a very productive, highly informative, and action-oriented meeting. The Cybersecurity Committee has a deep bench of subject matter experts, and it was very impressive, the topics that they had identified. And we in the committee in search of a name tried to join in to use the scaffolding, so to speak, of the module-based systems that we have been looking at to create tools and methods to assist lawyers. And so what our goal was to create, or start to the beginning to create, an accessible tool or tools that's not particularly intimidating, but highly accessible in the form of an interactive checklist form with yes and no answers and drop downs and links to help and arrows directing solutions to problems. The topics are limited really to about 6 different topics, and I won't go into the deep dive into all of them, but they're complicated and they're deep. But we want to include communications, all different kinds of communications, money, data storage, infrastructure and equipment, staff training and culture, and cyber attacks. And we've broken up into small work groups, I'll call them. I won't even call them subcommittees. But each work group is going to be taking one of these 6 topics and trying to develop a module, interactive checklist, and then pass it on to the next work group, so that by the time the 6 work groups pass around their work product, each work group will have looked at everybody else's work. And I'm optimistic that just from the discussions we had, that we can come up with something very helpful, straightforward, that's not complicated, to assist practicing lawyers in this cybersecurity dangerous time at this point. So I'm looking forward to see where we end up in the next few months. But it was a very, very good meeting. We had, because of COVID, we had put all this on the back burner. PMBR was really not a high priority for the State Bar, but going forward, I think we've got some good stuff coming down the road.
Great. Thanks. Y'all are doing great. And the presentation of that committee was, I mean, really, I mean, it makes you stop and think about that. Anybody have any questions or things for Eben and Walter? I guess Walter, did Walter join us or not?
I don't see Walter on here, Colin.
Does anybody have any questions or things for Eben you'd like to ask? If not, is Tom?
Yeah, no action items for the council at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Ed. All right. So, I don't know if Tom Anderson is on. We've had
yes, I'm here.
Good. Would you kind of update us?
Yes. Other than being rejected by my resident Superior Court judge on our proposed courthouse access order, nothing has happened. Judge Puckett was okay with the portion of the proposed order that got the lawyers to the front of the line. But when we got into the portion about the guardians ad litem and other people being able to bring in electronics and cell phones, she just did not like that. And so she said no. And when Judge Puckett says no, she only has to say it once. That COVID has also slowed me down. I have some ideas, and I'll be asking that the subcommittee meet in the next few weeks so we can figure out another way to approach this. That's all.
All right. Good. Thanks. I know this is COVID stuff has really made a challenge for that issue, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions or anything for Tom? If not, Charles, tell us about the Distinguished Service Award activity.
Yes, thank you, Colin. We do have a nominee for consideration, so I would move that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A2 to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship prize, or similar award.
Okay.
Colin, this is Peter.
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering if I can't I can't turn the live stream off and turn it back on without it ending the link. Is this the last item of that we're going to be dealing with?
I think so. I don't, does it ask if there are any other business? If there's no other business, no, this will be the last one.
Okay, so what I recommend is that we end this live stream to go to closed session. I will start a new live stream to record us ending and voting, so we have it recorded, but it'll just not be part of that original link until I deal with that later and merge them together.
That all sounds really good, but I'm not sure what's going to happen.
I'm just going to end the live stream to go to closed session because we can't public stream it, and then have to look and make sure that people, anybody goes to the waiting room, and then we'll come back and I'll start a new live stream, and then we'll vote and adjourn.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. We've